Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about something interesting and intriguing. And today, my very special guest is Brother Weser Khufu, and we are talking Gullah Geechee culture. So this is going to be a great conversation. So Khufu is no stranger to Conversations with Nicole, having been on before last February, I believe it is. This is one conscious brother who is from Tallahassee. He is a contractor, a builder by trade, but he is very much so a lover of Black folks and wants to see us win. So we're gonna dive into this conversation in just a moment. But before I bring Brother Khufu on, I need to hear from y'all. I know we're a little delayed. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but delayed does not mean denied, right? Delayed does not mean denied. So I want to acknowledge you all. So let me know where you're tuning in from. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And so your comments, your questions are very much so welcome. I see my mom is on down in Miami. Thank you for the love. I appreciate you, Ma. Miss Janita, who is here in the Tallahassee area. I appreciate you being here. Brother Quasi, who is in ATL. Thank you for being here. And Miss Potter down in Miami. Thank you for being here, Miss Potter. So please please share, please tag someone that you believe might be interested in this conversation, because this is probably going to go a little deeper than you all may be thinking on the onset. All right. Miss Sophia Renee, thank you for being here. Blessings from Lawrenceville, GA. Appreciate you. And my brother Tarek and Dwelle in the Atlanta area as well. Thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate you so much. So I kind of told you a bit about Khufu. He has quite the bio. But all I'll say is, from a large family of 9 children, 6 boys, 3 girls, born at FAMU Hospital. He had a trip to Africa that changed his life. He became licensed with the state of Florida as a contractor back in the 80s, and he has been fighting the good fight for the Black community for quite some time now. So he has I guess I'll call it a book that he's written called The Black Soul, and he is the owner of The Hole, which is a beautiful gathering place here in Tallahassee. And so he will tell you more about uh, the whole and some of his plans for it. And as we embark on this conversation about Gullah Geechee culture. So y'all help me welcome Brother Weser Khufu. Hey!
Well, I'm glad to be here.
I'm, I'm glad to have you, Brother Khufu. I'm glad to have you. So, and I know we had a little technical issues, but hopefully those are behind us.
okay.
Can you
I better leave this there before I mess something up.
right?
Okay,
All
right.
right. So,
Okay.
thank you for being here. Folks are chiming in. I appreciate your wanting to have this conversation tonight. And so folks are saying Brother Tarek said he remembers Khufu Chambers. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
Hmm.
about 20 years ago or longer. Yeah.
Yes. Well, he was a student at FAMU, so he remembers that back in the day, late 80s, early 90s. Yes. All right. So we got Brother Chris on. Thank you for being here. Sister Lisa, thank you so much. Miss Vaughn, thank you for being here, Vaughn. She's down up in North Carolina. So thank you so much. Lisa, she said, Khufu, so good to see you, sir. Lisa Herring Jones. So
Yeah.
yes, thank you. So
Thank you, sister.
Khufu, yeah. So I gotta ask Khufu, this is the question I ask everybody. Who are you? Not what you do, but tell us in your own words, who is Khufu?
I'm a black man that's been searching, trying to find his true self, reconnect with my ancestors. I love Africa. I love black people. Um, just trying to find out who I am, find out how I came into being, just the knowledge of my true self, the knowledge of the universe, seeking to find the power within myself. Uh, and just trying to enlighten people on who they are. Uh, it's so much that make us up, and it's just so much that we'll be talking for days to really get to the bottom line of who we are, what our purpose is, and it's just so many things that I look back on. I look back on how many people are suffering that our people been through, the
Mhm,
loss of life, just the racism, the slavery, colonization. You
mhm,
know, it's just so much that we need to find our way back home. We need to find our way back with our culture. We need to find our relationship with God as we see it.
mhm,
Uh, I've always said that our umbilical cord has been severed to thousands and thousands of years of high consciousness and great power, slavery, colonization, all these forces, these negative forces, and they are influencing our lives today. We think we are free. Our flesh might be free, but our souls and our consciousness is still trapped in those shackles, chains, and cages of colonization, racism, and slavery. So
okay.
when we reconnect that umbilical cord back to those ancient years, way back thousands of years, and reconnect with that consciousness that we were aligned with before we were enslaved. We began to lead the world again, and the world is waiting on us. So
Okay.
that's just how I feel.
Okay. Very good. Well, appreciate you sharing that. So I want to jump right on into this Gullah Geechee culture discussion. You and I talked previously about Gullah Geechee culture. So for those who may not be familiar with Gullah Geechee, just give us in your own words kind of an overview of um, where that is located, who that covers, and the presence here in America.
We do our family reunion, and we really go back and try to study where our ancestors came from. And
Mhm.
my great grandfather came from Sierra Leone. He came from Sierra
Oh,
Leone. He went to the Bahamas, left the Bahamas, and he came to America, Charleston, South Carolina. We
wow.
had my grandfather. But the Gullah people, most of them are from West Africa coast,
Mhm.
Sierra Leone, Senegal, Gambia, Angola. And matter of fact, Gullah derived from the word Angola. And
Mhm.
the slave masters wanted rice. Rice was a big crop, and the people in West Africa, they West Africa coast, they raised a lot of rice. They grew a lot of rice, so they knew they had expertise in growing rice. So they got a lot of slaves from West Africa to come here to raise rice, and we were used to malaria. So one thing with although we wasn't immune to it. We could tolerate it more than the whites.
Mm-hmm.
So the slaves that were inland, they usually had a white overseer because they were in the Sea Islands where they were raising the rice. Mosquitoes was a big problem. So what they would do, they had a black overseer, if you want to say it, who was over the slaves, and they managed to hold on to a lot of their culture because of the overseer was black, and they were from West Africa. So they were able to hold on to a lot of their culture, and that's why they named them the Gullah Geechees. Uh, the Gullah Geechee Corridor, which is recognized by the United Nations, uh, it started at North Carolina, South
Mm,
Carolina, Georgia, and it come to Florida.
okay.
Ironically, it's more Gullah Geechees in Florida than it is in South Carolina. Uh,
Oh, wow.
People don't
Okay.
know that.
So I want
So,
to pause you right there. Again, folks are chiming in. We got Siobhan saying good evening, Tracy Gole. Sophia said beautifully driven purpose. And she said, I am also descended from Sierra Leone, the Mende tribe. Beautiful. Beautiful.
okay.
All right. And Tina's on with us as well. Thank you for being here. So, all right. So I want to get the viewers involved. So how many of you all are familiar? I mean, Sophia, she mentioned being from Sierra Leone. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Gullah Geechee here in not Tallahassee, but in America, from North Carolina to Florida. But how many of you are familiar with Gullah Geechee? Either you are descendants or perhaps you have you know of someone who is. Let us know in the comments if you don't mind. I'm curious. So while they are responding, Khufu, I'm curious around like how did you know? I mean, in terms of your family, like did they talk about your ancestors being from Sierra Leone and that sort of thing? Was that something that was always talked about in your family?
Yeah, it was not to the detail that it is now, but
Okay.
my father had it was it was 10 of them, nine
Mm,
boys and one girl, and we kind of lived that culture where we raised our own food. We had hogs, we had chickens, goats, ducks, and during the cold season, more so in November, October, November, when it was cold, we would
mhm,
kill like 7 or 8 hogs, and all my father brothers would come up to help slaughter them. We had a smokehouse, and we cured the meat out. So
mhm.
we lived the culture. And
Okay.
one of the things about Gullah Geechee, they believe in living off the earth. They believe in the farm. They believe in spirituality, and they
Mm,
believe in land, ownership of their land and stuff. So
gotcha.
when I went to Africa and
Mhm,
when I came back, that's where I used to go to the Penn Center. The Penn
mhm,
Center was the first school in America for slaves. They
mm,
turned it into a museum, but I used to go up there all the time. I used to get a lot of information on the
mhm,
Gullah Geechee culture and how it related to Africa, and
mhm,
it just drew me in. You know, it's just I wanted to identify with something that was current, that was something
mm,
that was living, a culture that I could identify with, and
mhm.
I love it. I love it. Uh,
Nice, nice.
you
So,
know,
a few folks are chiming in. Sophia, she's aware but not connected. Chris, not familiar with. All right. Well, hopefully this will be an introductory lesson, if you will. Siobhan, South Carolina Gullah Geechee descendant here. Okay. Family still in Charleston area. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Siobhan. I'm curious around Siobhan whether or not you've attended any of the Gullah Geechee festivals because I know they have some really great celebrations, especially in the Carolinas. All right, Chris, he said definitely watches my grandparents' parents do the same thing. Okay, and Chris, remind me again where your family is from, if you don't mind, in the comments. Janita said, I have visited South Carolina and learned a lot about Gullah Geechee culture. Things like the ring shout, bringing rice seeds braided in hair, life. of living on sea and the power of water. Mm, nice. All right. And she says, I love the people food and the basket weaving. All right. Are you familiar with that, Khufu? Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you going in and out, but I hear you now.
Okay. So yeah, she said she was familiar with the ring shout, the bringing the rice seed, braided in the hair, and life of living on sea and the power of water. Can you hear me?
You know, yeah, with Gullah Geechee, it was kind of embarrassing. People were ashamed to identify with Gullah Geechee, 50 years ago, because
Mhm.
they thought the Gullah Geechee people were, well, couldn't speak because they had the dialect of Africa and they split words and they had their own language really. And
Mhm.
I had to go to speech class for 5 years from first grade to fifth grade at Bond. They had
Oh
a
wow.
little house. Yeah, they had a little house on the hill that they tried to correct your speech. They call it Thai tongue. A lot of times they would call it Thai tongue. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I used to like when we go to family reunions. I love riding with my father and his brothers and just listen to them talk. Their voices were real heavy and they talk real slow, but
Mm-hmm.
they were real men. They really took care of their family. They raised their children, and it's just something. We always say it's nine of us, and when we were coming up, we lived in a shotgun house,
Mm-hmm.
no electricity, no heat. We had uh, uh, pipe that we got water out on the back porch. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have a bathtub. We had to wash in a foot tub back then. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my mama washing clothes on the rub boat and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but those kind of raising up that way, doing without a lot of the amenities of life back then and life today, it really just made. When I went to Africa, I really just loved being with the people. I stayed down in the jungle for about 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
uh, just living off the land and stuff. It was a good experience.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. All right. So other folks are chiming in. Lisa, she said my grandfather used to mention that family members were Geechee, but never went into details. I think we probably will find a lot of that, Lisa. So but thank you for sharing. Chris said Georgia, as far as I was able to remember and trace back so far. All right. Well, yeah, there might be some Gullah Geechee in your family history, Chris. So it'd be interesting to do a little bit more research. Janita, she said for a long time, Justice Clarence Thomas was ashamed of his Gullah Geechee
Right.
background. He didn't like folks to hear him speak. Huh, I did not know that. Interesting. Okay. Tracy said familiar, but was unaware that the culture extended to Florida. My relatives are planning to attend festivals in the future. I wish I had a connection. Such a rich living history. Yes, indeed.
Jim Brown was Gullah Geechee, the
Was he?
football player. Yeah, he was Gullah
Okay.
Geechee. And they
Okay.
they put him in the Gullah Geechee put him in high esteem. He was bad brother.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So you mentioned, most of the folks from that identify as Gullah Geechee came from West Africa. One of the things that you and I talked about was that it is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, African culture in America.
Right. It's the oldest African culture, and it's a living culture. You know,
Okay.
you like Saint Helena Island is really where a lot of things go. I think Pension is up in that area too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I remember when I would travel up there, I remember seeing these little buildings. They were about the size of a carport or garage. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked the lady what they call them praise houses.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what they would. led the slaves on the slave master on Sunday. They would
Mm-hmm.
go in these praise houses, and they would get in some type of spiritual trance, uh, just to thank God for helping them survive the harsh life of slavery, all the hard things they had to go through and stuff. You see, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the churches, once they gave the slaves Christianity, a lot of the slaves, a lot of the praise houses start forming, uh, experiencing religion the way the slave master experienced. It got out of their tongue, and they started doing what the slave master did. All
Mm-hmm.
your Negro spirituals, those Negro spirituals came from the slaves, and as they uh, got more educated with Christianity, they
Mm-hmm.
converted in the gospel. The gospel came out of the Negro spirituals. Uh,
Interesting, interesting. So I have heard something similar, in particular with what I think they call hush harbors or brush harbors, where slaves would be kind of like out, enslaved Africans would be kind of out in the woods, having their own kind of worship service, or practicing their spirituality. And so it sounds very similar to what you're speaking of, Kufu.
a lot of time, if it like to get baptized, you had the person being baptized. They had to go and stay in the wilderness or stay in the woods for weeks, and then they were supposed to have this experience. So when they come back to get baptized, the elders would be able to read to see whether they had got a message from a higher power, so to speak, of whether they were ready for baptism.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Now you mentioned that the land was important, uh, or is important to the culture because of farming, because of agriculture, because of food, because of shelter, right?
Right.
Mhm,
And see, all the islands, what happened was once technology came by, they started building bridges. Before
mhm,
they started building bridges, practically all of the islands, the slaves lived on the islands. And when they started building bridges, whites began to see how beautiful this land was and how valuable it was. So you take
mm,
Hilton Head, that was one of the first when they come in, they brought the land. You might have 10% blacks live there now, if that percentage. So
mm,
when they start, what the people would do, they would paddle a boat. Now just imagine you're in the ocean from an island, and it might take you a couple of days to paddle a boat from one of the islands to the mainland, and
mm,
that's why they held on to their culture real for a long time. And now
mm,
you have this thing with air property where uh, the blacks kept their land in the family. As you know, technology grew, and as we grew and started getting educated and started getting, building homes. And a lot of people wanted to leave the islands. And
mhm,
what they would do, they had air property. And one of the family members might say, I want to sell my property. I want to get my money out of it. So
mhm,
they passed a law where if someone wanted to sell their property, they had to sell the property to pay that person out. That's how a lot of people lost their land
mm.
through our property.
Gotcha. Okay. So, Brother Quasi, as he said, my understanding of the Gullah Geechee community originated off the coast of South Carolina. Please explain the transition of the people to Florida.
Okay, you had Florida was not a part of the Union. I think Florida became part of America back in 1841, but it was a lot of slaves left the Georgia, Florida, Alabama. It's a place called the Negro Fort. I don't know whether people familiar with it. The
Mm,
Negro Fort is in Appalachia, right off. It's in the uh, Smyrna. I can't pronounce that word, but it's in right. It's probably about 30 miles from Apalachicola,
Okay.
and the Spanish and the British England were fighting over Florida. A lot of countries were fighting over Florida, but Britain decided to leave, and they left the fort with the black slaves and Seminole Indians.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a well built fort, and Andrew Jackson didn't like the fact that a lot of the slaves were leaving Alabama, Tennessee, all the Confederate states, and they were building the army down at the Negro Fort.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Jackson commissioned the president to
Mm-hmm.
build another fort. And what they were doing, if right at where this Negro fort is, it's where the river narrowed down, and
Mm-hmm.
they were the blacks were charging people a tariff to come through, and so they and Andrew Jackson you had the Creek Indians, and
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Jackson formed alliance with the Creek Indians, and he was like paying them for every Negro, every Seminole they could kill. I think he would pay them like $50, which was a lot of money then. But
Mm-hmm.
they tried to overtake the fort, and they could
Mm-hmm.
never overtake it. So Andrew Jackson came down, and they bombarded the fort. What they had done was when the British left, they left them with a stockpile of gunpowder,
Mm-hmm.
and Andrew Jackson kept shooting and shooting until he hit the stack of gunpowder. They blew the whole fort up,
Oh wow.
and they say it was about 425 people, and the 300 and some of them were killed instant. And
Mm-hmm.
the black general and the Seminole Indian, they hung the black general, and they scalped the Seminole Indian. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been down the last 2 years. I came down there, and
Mm-hmm.
we went down the drum. Brother Arco went with me. We went
Okay.
down at the drum. Yeah, so
So I want to provide just a little bit more clarity and let me say greetings to I believe that's Sister Michelle. Thank you for joining us. So on the and I put this in the chat, but on the visit gullahgeechee.com website, there's a tab entitled Where to Go. And it talks about the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, which is 12,000 square miles of federal national heritage area that's been designated by the U.S. Congress that stretches from Pender County, North Carolina. If you from North Carolina, raise your hand in the chat. To St. Johns County, Florida. So it stretches from roughly Wilmington, North Carolina area, all the way down to St. Augustine, Florida. Okay. And a bunch of those kind of areas that are, as it states on this site, it says the corridor is not a national park or a single site, but comprised of many historical and culturally significant places to the Gullah Geechee people. Okay. So just to give that frame of reference, Brother Quasi, but great question about the transition to the people of Florida. And thank you for that history, Brother Khufu, as it relates to it. So let me just pause real quick because we're about halfway through our conversation. And I want to, let folks who may be just tuning in know that I'm on with Brother Weser Khufu, who is here in Tallahassee, Florida, owner of The Hole. And we're going to talk about The Hole in just a moment. But we talking Gullah Geechee culture, the corridor of the Gullah Geechee culture, as well as some of the things that are important to Gullah Geechee culture, like land, like being able to provide food and shelter, live off the land, basically. How their spirituality was very much so akin to that which was on the continent of Africa, which, we talked about where many of the Gullah Geechee ancestry came from in Africa, right? Sierra Leone and Angola and places such as that. Janita, she said, when will we have a Gullah Geechee cultural festival at the Hole? She already knew it. She already asking the question, Khufu. When will we have a Gullah Geechee culture festival at the Hole? Which is actually what we getting ready to talk about. Janita, you are right, spot on, spot on.
Yeah, we're planning on doing Gullah Geechee Pan African Food Festival,
Mhm.
October the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And we want to do this festival just to get people to come enjoy our culture, just to enjoy food, bring people together. But we're going to have people bring in artifacts, all different things, telling about the culture, speaking to people about where they are from and why we like right now what this president is doing. We need to wake up and come together. You know, food. The thing with food, I know they come back on food stamps. They come back on Medicare. It's a lot of things come back on how.
Uh-oh. I think that might be my site. Hopefully y'all can still hear them. All right, we having a little technical difficulty. So y'all stand by for a moment. If you all can hear me, give me a thumbs up or just an emoji in the comments. If you can hear me, give me an emoji or a thumbs up in the comments. Let me know. Let me know if you can hear me. All right. Okay, I see you. I see you. Okay. Khufu, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Khufu? Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, no, he can't. Let me remove this one. All right, I see y'all. Y'all hear me. That's great. All right, we had a little freezing going on. So hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Let me see if I can get them back on. All right. So while I try to get Khufu back on, he mentioned the Gullah Geechee Pan African Food Festival, October 2nd through 4th here in Tallahassee. I want to know how many of y'all would be interested in participating in that. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. All right, Tracy, I see your thumbs up. I see you. I see you. I see you. So, one of the things that Khufu and I had talked about was just some of the things that he's doing down at the hole with things that he's planted, some livestock, things of that nature. And so really one of the things that I wanted to also have us discuss was the getting back to us getting back to either raising our own food or getting with somebody who does, getting with farmers who do. Because as we saw during COVID, when those shelves become bare and the food supply is shrinking, it can put us in a bad situation, right? And so we need to be utilizing those things that our ancestors did in terms of being able to take care of ourselves, and not only monetarily but again physically, uh, through raising maybe livestock and things of that nature, um, growing our own food, sewing our own clothes, things of that nature. All of these kind of back to basics type skills and things that we need to go to. So, if y'all will just bear with me one moment, let me try to get Khufu squared away. So I'm gonna mute my mic for just a moment. So we had a little technical difficulty. Khufu's device overheated. So we're gonna have him come back. So definitely as we get closer to the Gullah Geechee Pan African Food Festival that he's planning here at the Hole. Definitely want to have him come back and share more details about when he plans to have that and what we can expect from that. So yes, October 2nd through the 4th. Old Town says super excited. Chris definitely interested. Love it. And then Africa Town in Mobile. Yes, I've heard of Africa Town. In fact, I think Dr. Henry Lewis was one who has shared some information here locally about Africa Town. So I don't know if there is a connection between Gullah Geechee people to, like you said, that Africa Town in Mobile, but that would be interesting to kind of research. So one of the things again that Khufu and I talked about prior to tonight was him extending the hole as part of the Gullah Geechee corridor, even though Tallahassee, of course, is more inland. But he's wanting to add the hole as a spot for folks to come as a point of interest in a historical and culturally significant place of interest to the Gullah Geechee people. So that is on the horizon. So definitely stay tuned. I apologize that we, had some technical issues tonight, but you know, technology, right? It's unpredictable, and sometimes it fails you. So I am not going to belabor the point since we can't close out like I really would like to. But I do want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, for your great participation in terms of answering the questions and asking your own questions. Let's see. Old Town said it's time for us to reunite in unity. And yes, it's time to start unlearning unhealthy behaviors. Let's go back to mother. Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely agree with that. And so again, those are some of the things that Brother Khufu has on his radar and is wanting to extend to the Tallahassee community and beyond with the things that he's doing down at his place called The Hole. So again, stay tuned for more of that in the months to come. I do want to invite those of you who may be new to this platform to subscribe to Conversations with Nicole. We are here live on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, mostly focus on mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities, but wellness extends beyond mental wellness. And so I feel like this was part of cultural wellness, right? And so I really appreciate you all being on tonight. And next week we have quite the lineup. I have Coach Anna Woods, who is a grief and trauma informed care coach. She just wrote this book, Faith and Feelings, rather, Embracing Our Humanity. So she'll be on next week, uh, talking about this book. It's actually a journal. But she'll be on next week. Okay, Khufu trying to come back on. So y'all pause 1 minute. Let me see if we can get him back on. All right, Khufu, can you hear me? Yeah, he can't hear me. All right, so still having some technical issues. It's okay. We'll have him back on another time. And then so she'll be on Monday. And then on Wednesday, I will have Sonia B on with me, Sonia Benson, who is an intimacy coach and a sexologist. And Sonia and I are partnering for our second Poom Poom Party of the year, which will be taking place on Sunday, July 26th. And the theme is nourishing the Poom Poom. So we will have a conversation about that next Wednesday, gearing up for our ladies only event, which again is taking place on Saturday, July 26th. So that'll be next week's shows. And then this coming Friday, on Conversations with Nicole YouTube at 3 p.m. I will have Miss Rita Brown on, who is the founder of Brownsville Preparatory Institute based here in Tallahassee. So you don't want to miss it. So we got all the shows going on right now in this season. So definitely tune in to as much as you can. So I see y'all got this whole conversation going on about Africa now. So if anybody's an expert on Africa Town, y'all reach out. I would love to have a conversation about that. I really would. So thank you so much for y'all's comments, for y'all being present, and for the interaction. I definitely do not take that for granted. Yes, okra is excellent for the Poom Poom. We will have some okra on deck at the Poom Poom party. Believe that we will. All right. So listen, y'all. I'm gonna close out this conversation. But again, thank y'all so much for your support. I can't, just express how much I really appreciate you all for hanging in there with me. We are coming up on 10 years in March, and so I love this work, and I love each and every one of you for supporting me. So again, have a great rest of the evening, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.